Aloha Pumehana. I am John Wright, John North Wright, a former master of the written word, now too close to age 50 to have any more patience with such an obsolete medium. I have now spent roughly half of my life living here in Port Huron, Michigan, and the other half living somewhere else. Most recently in Kauai, on the island of Oahu, in the town of Kaneohe. Through my 3 self-published books, I go under the nom de plume of Dr. Kabbalah. I've always felt that I should have been a doctor, PhD, rather than a physician, but I've never achieved such an ambition. I think it's largely because the subjects in which I am interested or obsessed are not subjects with which would be recognized by any university on earth. My deepest or earliest such obsession was parodied and mocked in the 1956 movie That Certain Feeling, in which Bob Hope, playing the lead, says, "I know what's funny about Port Huron, Michigan." In my writings, I claim that this structure, the Blue Water Bridge, connecting Port Huron, Michigan with Point Edward, Ontario, Canada, is in fact a telepathic transmitter operated jointly by the ONI and the Canadian, that is British, Secret Intelligence. I plan to express such claims further in 2 further videos I'm making, the first to be entitled My A'aumakua, and the second, Dylan Stole My Marty. Ever since I can remember, beginning in the summer of 1945, around the time of the first Alamogordo nuclear test shot in New Mexico, I've been obsessed with the idea, convinced that there were many very strange, peculiar, statistically abnormal things going on in Port Huron. I've been almost equally confounded, too, by the strangeness of the facts themselves and the fact that no one else in Port Huron, other than immediate family members, seem to feel there's anything strange or worthy of any comment or interest whatever. However, there are a few things that even the power structure of Port Huron openly admits that Port Huron is world superlative in at least 3 separate categories. In the first such category, Port Huron sits at the head of and is the largest city on the American side of the St. Clair River. And according to the latest St. Clair County phone directory, is the busiest waterway on earth, carries more shipping than the Suez and Panama canals combined. I presume that refers to the St. Clair River, starting about here at the bridge, connecting Lake Huron to Lake St. Clair, approximately 35 miles south of here. So, to reiterate, we have here the busiest water day on earth. Not too busy today, though. Also, the phone directory confirms what I've suspected for a long time, that Port Huron is the starting point of the largest freshwater sailing yacht race event on earth, the Port Huron to Mackinac race, which is held annually on the 3rd or 4th Saturday of July and lasts for 1 to 2.5 days for the different categories, starting from between 10 and 3 Saturday afternoon. This year, the race took place Saturday, July 27th. The second world superlative is we have the largest freshwater sailing race on the face of the earth starting here. The third point, which has just started getting publicity in the Port Huron media during the past year, was that Port Huron is the western terminus of the Port Huron to Sarnia Grand Trunk Western Canadian National Railway Tunnel. the first international underwater railway tunnel on Earth. This tunnel was completed September 19th, or opened for business September 19th, 1891. And ceremonies commemorating the centenary of this event were held September 14th and 19th of 91 this year. This is the Thomas Edison Inn, Port Huron's most exclusive inn, hotel, motel, whatever. Its name, its architecture, and even its location epitomize a trend that has been going on for the past several decades as Port Huron turns away from heavy industry and toward the tourist trade. It is located right where the second largest factory in town, Peerless Cement, used to be located, a plant that over the decades spilled hundreds of thousands or millions of tons of cement dust into the air until it was finally closed roughly 20-some years ago. All this cleared area around me to the south of the inn, extending all the way down to the north end of Pine Grove Park, had been either parts of the Peerless Cement complex or a bunch of rundown lower class housing that was cleared away to make room for this parkland. Obviously, even during the 60s, when this decision was made, the city's fathers were already contemplating Port Huron's future evolution into a tourist town or a tourist trap, whatever. And in line with this trend, signs have been put up at the city limits on all the roads leading into town saying Port Huron, boyhood home of Thomas Edison. I believe Edison lived here from when he was 6 or 7 until his 16th or 17th year, which are certainly the formative years. So I guess Port Huron can rightfully claim to have been the hometown of the world's greatest inventor, objectively speaking, whether measured in terms of the sheer number of inventions he made and patents he received, or in terms of their significance to future human industry and society in general, to the future of the entire human race. I don't think anyone can dispute that Edison was the most significant inventor of his time, or any time. Over here, this building, this red-colored building, is known as the Thomas Edison Depot or Edison Museum. It stands as closely as can be determined to the old Port Huron and Detroit railway station on which Edison worked as a news vendor, as he's depicted in this statue, his first ever regular paid employment. Of course, as many of you may already know, he lost his job when one of his chemistry experiments went awry, setting several train cars on fire. Edison was a nonconformist in several ways. He dropped out of school after being there only 6 or 7 weeks, which didn't seem to hurt him at all in his subsequent career as an inventor and highly successful businessman. And while the fact that all his inventions were made before the completion of the Blue Water Bridge in 1938, its 50th anniversary having been celebrated here in Port Huron 3 years ago in 1988, doesn't in any way support my claim that the bridge, in addition to being a bridge, is also a telepathic transmitter. I don't think it casts any doubt on my speculation that perhaps Edison was fed his inventions, perhaps without his knowledge, by extraterrestrial and or extra-dimensional intelligences. I know Edison is famous for the statement that genius is 1% perspiration, 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration, but perhaps he was fed these inventions without realizing it. Or if he did realize it, perhaps he was shrewd enough to keep quiet about it. Thank you.